I'm Scott Rouse, and I'm a body language expert and analyst, and I train law enforcement and the military in interrogation and body language. And today we're going to talk about Meghan and Harry. And they were awarded the Humanitarians of the Year award at the Project Healthy Minds Gala. Now, they gave a speech. She talked for a minute and he talked for a minute. They kind of tag teamed it. A lot of people are saying that Harry looks a little bit off. Maybe he looks angry, frustrated, can't really figure out what's happening, if anything is. So what I thought we would do is go through that speech, almost sentence by sentence, so you'll know exactly what's going on from a behavior and body language perspective. Let's take a look.
Good evening, everybody.
Right out of the gate, this looks a little bit odd because he's pulling on his jacket, he's goofing around with his buttons, he's slapping his chest, doing all kinds of things. He looks almost like a baseball coach giving signs out to the pitcher or the catcher or whoever it is. Now, why would he be doing this? When we're nervous, when we're stressed, we use things called adapters, and he's adapting. He's trying to get rid of that built-up stress and tension. On that first walk-in, you can see his cheeks are all blown up and he's blowing air out. That's one of the best ways to do it, and it's one of the most popular and famous ways of doing it. People just go, you've done it 1,000 times, you've seen it 4 million times. And that's what he's doing to get rid of that built-up stress and tension. That's an adapter. Now let's take a look at Meghan. When she puts her hand on his back, that's one of those little dominance moves you see. When somebody pats you on the shoulder or they pat you on the back, they're being the dominant person in that situation. That's what she's doing here. Then she looks over to her left and she licks her lips. She's adapting as well. She's nervous. When you first come out for something like this, you've got that nervous tension backstage. Then when you come on stage, there's a whole different type of nervousness that happens. There's a whole lot of it right there in front of you because somebody's got to talk first. She knows it's going to be Harry. And when he starts talking, he's trying to get it together. He's trying to show he's going to give you this wonderful speech.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here tonight in support of Project Healthy Minds, our partners at Archwell Foundation, and the true leaders in mental health access. Tonight, we're all here together.
He's still goofing around with that button at the bottom of his coat. That's okay, because he does it before he does a lot of speeches. I've seen him do it several times. It's just adapting. He's just getting ready. But it's like he keeps getting ready. Even as he's giving the speech, even after he started, he's still goofing with his coat. You can see him rubbing his hands and squeezing his hands. He goofs around with his coat again. Then we see lip compression. This is a lot of stress for this guy. And he's also trying to get a handle on reading that teleprompter. When you first walk up, you've got to get used to how far away it is and make sure you can read it. And that's what he's doing. But in this situation, he looks a little more stressed than he usually looks before he gives a speech or a talk. Meghan is stressed as well. She's squeezing her hands and she's got this eye blink tick that's going on. And we're going to see that thing ramp up. And what am I talking about? It's a tick. She's got something going on with her eyes that she's developed over the last year and a half. And it's this thing where she blinks really fast. And sometimes she'll just close her eyes. And that little shutter speed as she closes her eyes is just too slow. She blinks, opens and closes them real slow. It's really weird. But people do that when there's a high stress level going on. I think that's what she's experiencing. And we're going to see it get worse. But remember, we're seeing these because she's trying to calm down. She's trying to be cool. She's trying to keep herself under control.
To focus on what remains one of the most pressing issues of our time. Let me share a number with you. 4,000. That's how many families the Social Media Victims Law Center is currently representing.
He's goofing with his coat again, and he's showing us lip compression. This is all high stress. Now, usually, when I've seen him give speeches and talks before, his stress level drops as he starts talking. I think this might be a situation where he hasn't read this speech before this, and he's kind of going for it, and that's why the stress is so high. But let's pay attention to his body language when it comes to Meghan. Is he looking at her? Is he not looking at her? When is he looking at her? What's happening? Does he try to connect with her? Is there something going on outside of this speech that's affecting his behavior? Meghan's doing pretty good. She's got that one mouth grooming gesture, then that one step and sway back and forth a little bit. And she's trying to keep that tick under control. How do we know that? Watch how slowly she blinks. And the shutter speed on her blinks are really slow. She keeps her eyes closed too long. So she's got the thought of that tick happening, and she's trying to control it. And when I'm talking about her tick, if you still don't know what I'm talking about, watch this.
That's so kind. I am. I'm better than okay. My practice is trying to really, and it was so energizing. Really great. Do that and do that with such passion. I think it was just the most, you go have a fun dinner and actually you might hit them even
through everything you've done or to launch a business.
And I cannot believe And I went up and it always stayed with me, right? Idea bull
Is like,
oh my God.
you know, so I was just like,
Yeah, and how it break. There was this quote that I had up in my, but it's become so ingrained in everything. Yeah. I appreciate what hard work looks like.
it's so funny. And, you know, in the past, gosh, 15,
Home, and Mike having it at home. Yeah.
Megan, I had,
I look like a, yeah.
no, but it's like, it's in you. I was going to ask you that actually, because, but also,
6 years old. Even when I had my first apartment and I could change someone's, brings me a lot of joy. That's complete joy.
4,000 cases at just one firm. And that number represents only those parents who have been able to link their child's circumstance to social media use. Parents who have learned legal action is possible, who have the capacity to pursue it while grieving, and parents who found their way to help in the fight back against some of the wealthiest, most powerful corporations in the world.
Let's pay attention to that build up and release attention as we go along. It's all in her eyes. She does another mouth grooming gesture, but then she seems stable until that odd and rapid blinking starts. Now, when somebody has a tic like this, it doesn't just start right then. This has been going on for a while, and I've clocked it about a year and a half. And what causes these is a tremendous amount of stress, psychological stress, and discomfort. And there's usually 2 or 3 things going on in that person's life that are very stressful. And so you combine all those things together, and these little tics start happening sometimes. And obviously, it's happening to her. So we've got an interesting situation here. We've got a guy who is usually not very stressed in situations like this, but he just can't get comfortable. Then we have Meghan. She's a tough read a lot of times because you really don't know what you're looking at as far as authenticity and those kind of things. But we know when she's stressed, we know exactly what that looks like, and that's what's happening here. So this, again, makes me question, has something been going on before this speech that's been brought into this situation that's making him act this way? He can't get comfortable, and her tics are starting to pop off.
And even after this, there may be no road to closure for grieving parents because these companies refuse to disclose their child's information and activity on their platforms.
What's interesting here is that double stomp he does when he says grieving parents. Now, this apparently bothers him.
There may be no road to closure for grieving parents, for grieving parents, for grieving parents.
He may be actually reliving the story sort of in his head as he's talking about this, but something's up here because he does that double eye blink as he's stomping. Whatever it is, it's affecting him enough to show up in his behavior during this speech. And at the end of this, again, we see him goofing around with his jacket, and then we see compressed lips. That lets us know there's a lot of stress there. Maybe he just said something that he didn't feel good about saying, or maybe he didn't think it came out well. Maybe he thought it didn't sound very good. Something's up here. Hey, everybody. Just a quick intro. I want you to meet Jessica, our sponsorship specialist. Hi, Jessica.
Hey, Scott.
Hey, thanks for letting me do this because I want to use it as an example. So check this out. I just Googled your full name. Now, your address is in Los Angeles, correct?
Yes, that's creepy.
And your phone number is 214 or 8.
Yep.
Yeah, see, that's the creepy part. Your personal address, phone number, and email are all out there for anybody to find. All I did was just Google and search you. It's not a hack. It's data brokers, companies that collect and sell your information to marketers, scammers, and even identity thieves. And it's totally legal and completely creepy. They're supposed to remove your information if you ask them to, then they bury it in all that legalese and red tape, so you'll just give up. But you can do what we do. You can use Aura, today's sponsor. Aura scans the web for data brokers that are sharing your information and automatically sends opt-out requests on your behalf. But Aura doesn't stop there. It monitors the dark web 24/7 and alerts you fast if any of your information shows up. Now, it'll warn you if somebody tries to open a bank account or credit line in your name. And if something goes wrong, you're covered with up to $5 million in identity theft insurance, and a US-based fraud team is ready to step in. Plus, Aura includes a world-class VPN so you can browse and shop safely from anywhere. It's privacy protection and peace of mind all in one. So go to aura.com/Scott Rouse and get 14 days for free. And that's enough time for Aura to start scrubbing your information from the internet. All right, thanks, Jessica.
Thank you, Scott.
Here. Now with Meghan, at the very beginning of this, we see that blink flutter, then her mouth opens and closes. And at the end, we see that tick ramping up. Now, it's getting closer for the time to her to start speaking. She's been standing there watching, and she's got all this internal dialogue going on about how she's going to begin, and she's already seen herself walking up to the podium and talking. So that's an incredible amount of stress as well, especially in a situation like this. So as her stress level grows higher, the more pronounced that tic's going to become.
If these deaths and harms were unintended consequences 10 years ago, what are they now? This is a pivotal moment in our collective mission to protect children and support families in the digital age, and we cannot do it without you.
Deaths and harms. I don't know what their fascination is with adding an S to the end of a verb to turn it into a noun, but they do it all the time. Meghan did it in that interview where she said she was the CEO. She talked about learnings and some other things. Nobody talks like that. They wonder why we say they don't show authenticity, because nobody talks like that. It's weird. And he's still goofing around with his coat, that button down there. He's playing around with his ring finger. He's exhibiting more adapters than any professional speaker I think I've ever seen. So there's something else going on here. And the thing that makes me think it might be them is he starts pulling on his ring finger and he's twisting that wedding ring. Now, a lot of people will do that and not even thinking about their spouse. It has nothing to do with it. But in this situation, I don't know. Something's happening. And I think these two have been fussing because he's really frustrated and she doesn't have much of a problem. She looks a little bit too confident. You ever known somebody like that where you're all upset and they're still trying to look like it doesn't bother them? And then when he's finished, he steps backwards and we see that classic adapter of his, which is licking his lips. Then it's Meghan's turn, so she steps up to the podium.
Our children, Archie and Lily, are just 6 and 4 years old. Can you believe it? Luckily, still too young for social media, but we know that day is coming.
Oh, that's so cringy. She's talking about how old her kids are, and she says, can you believe it? Like they are intimately involved with her life. Ugh.
Our children, Archie and Lily, are just 6 and 4 years old. Can you believe it?
And nobody acknowledges it. That's what makes it so cringy, because she just keeps going. I mean, nobody clapped, nobody said, oh, nobody laughed, nothing. She just bombed. Oof.
Our children, Archie and Lily, are just 6 and 4 years old. Can you believe it? Luckily, still too young for social media, but we know that day is coming.
Then when Harry's finished pulling on his coat, he starts exhibiting that mouth grooming again. Then he sways back and forth and he looks down. This guy may have ADD or something, I don't know, but it looks like we're watching a giant kid standing back there.
And like so many parents, we think constantly about how to embrace technology's benefits while safeguarding against its dangers. And that hopeful intention of separation is rapidly becoming impossible.
She's under the impression that given this speech that somebody else wrote, that she's reading, you can watch her read it on the teleprompter, she thinks that's making her look and sound smarter. Nope, because usually she talks in those platitudes, but this is in a whole other ballpark. This is incredible. Nobody talks like that.
And that hopeful intention of separation is rapidly becoming impossible.
That hopeful intention of separation is rapidly becoming impossible. There's the problem. Fake authenticity. Nobody talks like that. Nobody talks like that. Now, Harry, he looks like he's bored out of his skull. He can't stand still. He can't quit mushing his mouth around. Now, I get it. This is pretty boring. It's a free and meaningless award. They didn't do anything for it. So I think what he may be under the impression is this is below him, is what I think. That might be what's bothering him as well, although I still think they're having a fuss or something. I'll tell you why in a couple minutes. I think he's under the impression this is below him. He's better than this. But he's doing it because he needs to stay relevant. Something needs to be happening for him. And this is the only thing they've got going on.
Now, 2 years ago, we first spoke publicly about the work we've been doing with parents around social media's devastating impact on their children. There was no better place to share this than on World Mental Health Day with Project Healthy Minds.
One skill Meghan hasn't quite mastered yet is reading a teleprompter without looking like you're reading a teleprompter.
Social media's devastating impact on their children. There was no better place to share this than on World Mental Health Day.
And Harry's not even there right now. He's thinking, did I check my email? I wonder if I called my brother if he'd answer. My dad hates me.
Their dedication to expanding access to mental health support is exactly what we aim to do by building this community called the Parents Network. We launched this program a year prior, after we had been tracking the effects of online harms more broadly in 2020. We were doing the research, we were meeting with experts at Stanford who had been trying to be heard on the findings that they knew were troubling and that would only worsen.
There it is again, turning a verb into a noun by adding an S at the end. They love that. They absolutely love doing that. I would have loved to be at the meeting when they decided harms was going to be the word. Ooh, I can't imagine the person that said, here's what we're going to call those things, harms. Hang on a second, Frank, isn't that just putting an S on the end of a verb? Like, yeah.
After we had been tracking the effects of online harms.
Not a whole lot's changed from the last clip, but she's now starting to focus on reading this thing. And the reason her illustrators are so small, and there aren't very many of them, is because she knows she has to illustrate because she's emphasizing specific words and phrases, like I did just then, specific words and phrases, that's an illustrator. She knows she has to emphasize specific things, but there's no passion in it. That's why they're so small. That's why they're so little, and they're not timed right. They're almost there. They're really close, but they're missing. What's interesting here is Harry starts blinking too. It's like he has the same tick. He's got something going on up here as far as internal dialogue goes. And his stress level is rising. So he's thinking about something. And I think it's her.
And our work continued for years quietly. And then in 2023, we connected with the Social Media Victims Law Center. We met with a group of American families whose lives were forever changed by the online harms that ultimately created the tragic fates of their children. And in that first gathering, it was clear that for all of these families, meeting others who had endured a similar experience was comforting, but more than that, it was unifying. We felt the collective strength of this community coming together to heal and feeling compelled to act in a much more public way, which is what we began to do.
Now you realize what's going on here, don't you? They're telling us the reasons why they deserve this award. They're telling us why they won the award. Everybody there should already know what they've been doing. So why should they have to tell them?
And our work continued for years quietly. And then in 2023, we connected with the Social Media Victims Law Center.
Apparently, nobody there knows what they've been doing. She even says, our work continued quietly.
And our work continued for years quietly. And then
Now, I'm under the impression she's not going to do anything good and not make sure everybody knows. But I haven't heard about this before. Maybe you have, but I sure haven't.
And our work continued for years quietly. And then
So from here on out, listen from that perspective. Listen to it from the perspective of they're telling us what they've done to deserve this award because nobody knows what they've done. As far as Harry goes, I really do think he's just bored. He's just waiting for her to finish so it'll be his turn to talk.
Since then, as our network grew, we've seen the full scope of what we're facing. We have witnessed the explosion of unregulated artificial intelligence, heard more and more stories from heartbroken families, and watched parents all over the world become increasingly concerned about their children's digital lives.
Harry's at bat again, and he just can't get comfortable. No matter what he does, he can't get comfortable. And I don't know what's going on in his pocket, but it sure looks sus to me.
As our network grew, we've seen the full scope of what we're facing. We have witnessed the explosion of unregulated artificial intelligence, heard more and more stories from heartbroken families, and watched parents all over.
I don't know if I should be showing that or not.
As our network grew, we've seen the full scope of what we're facing. We have witnessed the explosion of unregulated artificial intelligence, heard more and more stories from heartbroken families, and watched parents all over.
We all know what it looks like when somebody's into something and somebody's passionate about something, somebody's telling you something they did and they're proud of it and they want it to happen and want everybody else to be into it. That's not happening here, not even a little bit. He's just reading that thing. Megan's trying hard to stand still. She's trying hard to stay focused. She's got that blink thing going on. Her got a little tick happening. She's goofing around with her ring. Her stress is high.
But we've also seen something else. the extraordinary strength and determination of parents who refuse to give up. Because in any ordinary or logical situation, those responsible for creating the conditions and facilitating the circumstances where children are led and lured to such harm would be held accountable.
They keep talking about these harms, but they don't give us a definition. They don't say exactly what they are. I think it would be a little clearer of what we're talking about if they would at least define those. Now, his illustrators are a little bit bigger here. And he's actually using his eyebrows. He hadn't used them very much at all. His brows actually becoming engaged. This may be a situation where he does actually know what he's talking about here. He may have actually dealt with this part of the whole system that we've talked about so far. It may be the only part because he looks pretty confident here. He's not goofing around with his coat. He's not doing anything that shows us he's got a lot of stress. This is what he usually looks like when he's giving talks anywhere else. So I think he probably knows what's happening with this section here. I think he's confident with it. Now, as far as Meghan goes, she's adapting with that huge wedding ring. She's pulling on it and twisting it. As well, we're seeing lip compression. In a situation like this lets us know that person's probably bored or they're ready to go, they're over it.
We are so proud that so many of these brave parents are taking a stand, dedicating themselves to fighting for change in a David versus Goliath situation, while educating others to the dangers so that they can be saved from the same exploitative practices and devastating consequences.
I think when those two people start clapping a little bit, sort of throws him off his game. It kind of ruins his confidence there because he knows he should have stopped and let everyone start applauding. Anytime you get a group to applaud, you just shut up and let them applaud. You should shut up and let them applaud. He knows that. And his hand rubbing and lip compression are back, so he's back to being stressed. Meghan does pretty good here. She stretches her fingers out, she rubs her hands together, and then she goofs around with that ring a little bit. She's just waiting on her turn and nothing big here.
When we learned that thousands of families from every corner of society were facing the same challenges, many learning for the first time that it was actually social media that took their child, we knew this movement needed to grow.
Now you see what's happening here? He's planting that seed that he and Meghan are the reason this thing took off, right? And the reason they need to be getting this award. Again, they're telling us why they need to be getting this award or they deserve it. His brow's engaged, his voice is a little louder, his cadence is slowed down just a little bit. He's selling us the reason they need to be getting this award or the reason they're getting this award. And when he says, we knew this movement needed to grow.
We knew this movement needed to grow.
Watch what she does. Her head goes down and so do her hands. She's trying to look humble here.
We knew this movement needed to grow.
Meghan Markle trying to look humble.
These families are not only up against corporations and lobbyists, many of whom spend tens of millions of dollars every year in suppressing the truth, but also algorithms designed to maximize data collection at any cost. And their kids, they weren't struggling with mental health issues. They weren't distinctly vulnerable. They were preyed upon.
He's not comfortable with this first statement he's making there. He's talking about money. When he starts talking about that, notice how he backs up a little bit. He's pulling on his jacket as he backs up a little bit. So we've got an adapter there because his stress is going up. His level's rising, right? Now, when I was the entrepreneur in residence at the Nashville Entrepreneur Center, when these people I would be teaching, I would be training them to pitch, how to pitch their idea, their service, or whatever it was. When they'd start talking about money and they weren't confident with it, or they weren't the one who came up with the financial part of it, they weren't the one that dug through everything, said, okay, here's what the finances are. Let's say it's the CEO and the financial person that's giving them that information, and the CEO starts talking about it. They're not confident. And one way they'd show confidence is when they first started talking about it, they would back up a little bit. Happened every time. So I'm not saying that's an absolute, because it doesn't happen every time. There are no studies on that other than my personal experience as far as I know. But this looks the same way to me. He's pulling on that jacket, his stress is going up, and he's backing up as he's talking about this financial situation.
These families are not only up against corporations and lobbyists, many of whom spend tens of millions of dollars every year in suppressing the truth.
Also, his illustrators look a little bit clumsy here, look a little bit clunky. That's another thing that lets us know something's up. And as well, he's messing around with his ring in his hand again. Now let's focus on Meghan. This is something else that makes me think what he's talking about he's not sure of, or something's up here, something's not right here. Because watch her blink tick. That thing goes through the roof. Then it settles down a little bit. The further he gets away from the financial part, the more she settles down and becomes more relaxed. So it's a combination of that and her getting ready to speak again that's raising her stress level.
To understand just how the latest technology rolled out by these platforms can impact children, our amazing partners at Parents Together had researchers spend 50 hours posing as children on AI chatbot accounts. They experienced a harmful interaction every 5 minutes.
Now, if he gave an example, just one example of what these harms are, it would give this thing the punch it needs to get everybody's attention and get us interested in it. But he doesn't do that. He goes back to his pocket game, whatever's going on in there. As for Meghan, her tics have calmed down just a little bit. She's probably thinking about what she's going to say when she's up next.
This wasn't content created by a third party. These were the company's own chatbots working to advance their own depraved internal policies.
He's still goofing around with that pocket. Whatever's in there, he loves it. I should say that. At the end of this one, we see a huge mouth grooming gesture and then lip grip. This lets us know he's glad he got through this one. I'm not sure he really read or looked at the data about this because there's way too much going on when he's finished talking about it.
And depraved internal policies.
Something's up here. As for Meghan, she's still just ticking right along. This keeps going like this for a couple of minutes and it gets pretty boring. So let's move on toward the end of the speech where it gets a little more interesting.
None of this work would be possible without the dedicated people who have built this movement with us. We must give special thanks to Lennon and Leora, who helped us design this network with such care and such tremendous love.
I've got $40 that says the people she's thanking are responsible for most of, if not all of, the things Meghan and Harry are taking credit for. And when she says their names and people start to applaud, she keeps talking. She doesn't leave that space for people to thank them, to applaud real big for them. That's not good. That's not cool, man.
We must give special thanks to Lennon and Leora, who helped us design this network with such care and such tremendous love.
If you're giving someone their props, if you're giving appreciation to someone, let people appreciate them. Let them applaud for them. That's not good.
We must give special thanks to Lennon and Leora, who helped us design this network with such care and such tremendous love.
She should let them have their moment there to get some applause for what they've done. That's a big deal. They're receiving this big award for what these people did, and they're not letting them appreciate these people. That's not good. That's probably one of the reasons she's not a leader. Then there's Harry. He's swaying back and forth, and he's got that mouth grooming thing going on, and he claps 8 claps for those people. 8.
This network with such care.
8.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Now, that's the end of the speech, but this tells us more than anything. This lets us know what everyone there thinks about them. That applause at the end didn't last very long, did it? And it didn't seem very enthusiastic. Wasn't very loud. Didn't hear any whistles, didn't hear anybody whooping and yelling and hollering. No thank yous, no nothing. That says a whole lot. So,
Thank you. We appreciate it.
All right, if you have any questions about body language, just email me, bodylanguagequestions@gmail.com, and I'll get right on it.